Now I know what you're all thinking. Adam, parts of the UK have just entered another nationwide lockdown again. That means the construction work outside of your flat must have stopped and you won't need to come into this, the replacement basement, ever again. Well, no. So yes, just to clear up that at the start of the video, I live here now, probably forever. Welcome back to another exciting episode of NXT Ups and Downs. And what a week we've got in store for you this week, because after Halloween Havoc was really good, NXT immediately built to 4 sensational looking matches to try and follow up some of the storylines they'd written on that week. I, for one, was excited, which is nice because, well, I mean, there's nothing else going on at the minute, is there? Anyway, yes, wrestling is escapism, so that is the one and only joke I'm going to do about all of that throughout this entire video. In fact, I should probably even get rid of that because of the horrible reminders about everything that's going on. So my name is Adam Clery, and these are all the ups and downs from this week's episode of NXT. Okay, so we kick off the show with quite a weird opening because Ember Moon's music plays, and here you go, here's the match, here's Ember Moon, but then somebody in production remembers that it was supposed to show you a highlights package from last week, so they cut to that in the middle of the entrance. It was different. And I'll tell you what, given the audience figures from last week, it was actually no surprise whatsoever to see the women's division opening this show. There was something like a 100,000 viewer swing, I might have made that up, between what was going on in AEW's women's division and what was going on in NXT's women's division, and Candice LeRae versus Io Shirai was a bigger draw than Penta versus Kenny. I don't know, it's almost like when you book one division really well, it gets viewers, and when you book one division not very well, it doesn't, or something. Alright, now this feels like a really harsh appraisal, but I still think Ember Moon is a good few steps behind the level she was at when she was previously on this brand. Like NXT Women's Champion Ember Moon was slick and brutal and fast and quick and just really just good all over the place, whereas the Ember Moon we've seen coming back to the division is a bit sluggish, a little bit slower, like the transitions aren't quite there. She takes an extra second to get to certain things, and it just throws the rhythm of the match off. However, this was a match of two halves. Before the commercial break, when everything I've just said was true, and then after the commercial break, when things actually got going. Like, this was supposed to be booked as a brutal match, but the first half, it was a bit, I don't know, a bit sloppy in parts, but then when they finally found their groove, did they find their groove? Like, when they got back from that commercial break, the action was both spotless and conversely very full of spots. Like, what Moon can be when she gets going, combined with what Dakota Kai has become over the last 12 months, makes this just such a natural pairing. It was really good to watch. And, right, as loath as I am normally to praise a distraction finish, Ember Moon, like, awakening something in herself only to get caught out on a slight distraction at the end, feels like there's loads of room to revisit this, and anything which allows us to revisit this is good, in my opinion, so it's getting an up. Alright, now as with pretty much anything to do with Cameron Grimes at the minute, I completely understand if this is not for you. The vast majority of a pro wrestling audience will give a pass to a zombie referee, provided it takes place within the confines of an event that's literally called Halloween Havoc, but you take that zombie referee storyline and you put it in the normal pro wrestling, and I understand why many lines are being drawn on this, but that's not quite what's going on here, is it? Because the referee is not a zombie. He is just a referee. It's just that in Cameron Grimes' warped head as a result of being in that terrifying abode, he thinks he's a zombie. And if there's anybody on this roster who's going to make entertaining television out of this premise, it's Cameron Grimes. There's nothing spooky or supernatural going on here. He just thinks there is. And you know what? NXT normally falls down in matches like this because Cameron Grimes is, however you want to look at it, getting a push because he's in the middle of a very entertaining storyline. Yes, he might lose, but you don't have to win matches to be pushed in pro wrestling. And Kushida, well, he is getting a push based on the fact that he's winning all the time. So both these men are on the up, they're both prominent, they're both doing things, and normally NXT tries to put things like this together and just loathes a clean finish so much that it doesn't work. Like, look, you put two people who are in separate storylines together, you just know something is going to happen sooner or later. But the solution here of letting Kushida win clean at first and then win clean off a distraction is quite clever. And then Cameron Grimes only lost because he's losing his mind, and the whole story is that he's losing his mind. So actually, they did quite well with this, and the match was just really good anyway. So up. Right, so I'm going to keep this next segment short and sweet, which, now that I think about it, might actually have been a good name for this tag team. Anyway, if you had asked me, which I know you didn't, but whatever, that's the gimmick with YouTube. If you had asked me what the next perfect step for the Killian Dane Drake Maverick tag team storyline was going to be, the last thing I would have said is another match with Everrise. Like, you've already unified them as a tag team. Now you need to unify them towards a cause that they wouldn't be able to achieve individually, and just revisiting this match with, again, the division's statistically worst tag team is not the move. But what they did here was absolutely perfect, because they were attacked, crucially not targeted. Remember, they just happened to be in the ring at the moment they showed up. It wasn't like a deliberate thing. They just got attacked by Pat McAfee and co. And that is brilliant. Like, those boys will not be giving Dane and Drake a second thought, but now they're going to want to get even. And what better way than to go after their tag team championship, something they could physically not achieve on their own, but now we've got a unified cause to go and achieve together. Given this is just really hokey and lame in parts and just thrown together because there's nothing else to do with these two, NXT do not miss with this storyline. I really enjoyed it. It gets another up. Right, on to the actual thing though, which was the group's promo in the ring. That's a whole separate bag of cats. But first of all, oh my God, God bless Danny Birch. At 30 years of age, finally getting the kind of moment in the spotlight that his career up until this point so richly deserves. And he's just getting so carried away by all of it. He keeps walking in front of Pat McAfee's shots and adding these dorky addendums to everything he says. Like, this guy, oh, and he's nodding his head so enthusiastically and constantly. He's going to end up with trap muscles like the Churchill dog. I love him. Anyway, without pretty much doing the exact same thing myself, there's not really a lot to break down here that's not immediately obvious based on who is actually in the ring. Pat just takes the microphone, he lays out the group's motivations, explains what it is they're doing, he makes it make sense. He goes back to his run-in with the Undisputed Era and how he felt disrespected despite obviously putting on a great performance. Lorch and Birkin, which is what I'm going to call them forever now, that sounds cool. They've never been able to get a shot on this brand because they've always been held down because they're not the Undisputed Era. And even smarter than that, going all the way back to New Orleans TakeOver 2018 when Roddy Strong betrayed Pete Dunne. It all makes sense. And the thing is, Pat is still untouchable on the stick right now until Adam Cole gets in his face again. And this was genuinely a really smart way to do this, because WWE tropes, the heels would have gone out, cut their promo, got their motivations there, and then a hero would have come out and chased them off, and they would have, they would have beat a hasty retreat because we're not scared. It's just, we don't want to deal with you right now. But they didn't do that. They didn't dull the shine of their new arrival on the scene by having them look slightly cowardly or worried about the people they were challenging in these upcoming matches. Like, this was really good. Yes, I know Killian Dane went after them at the end, but they smashed his head in a car door. Like, what more do you want out of that? This was pretty much perfectly done, I think, and is getting an up. And I know they haven't exactly said this specifically yet, but this is all being booked so well. It is only leading to War Games. In fact, I would go so far as to say it's been such a revelation. McAfee, Dunne, Lorcan, Birch, all of it so far has been so well done. You could even potentially put this on the Survivor Series card. Not an up or down this, because what do you want me to do? Tell you that Johnny Gargano's really funny in this role? He likes wheels now. Nobody ever said he didn't like wheels. Are you saying he didn't like wheels? God, imagine being a high-profile person on American television and just lying about the things you said. Next up, it's Toni Storm taking on Shotzi Blackheart, and oh, this was a mess. All right, so first things first, Toni Storm, since coming back to WWE, hasn't quite looked at it at all. Like, she had this big promo package where I was like, this is a new Toni Storm and I'm running on the beach and I'm going to smash everybody in my way. And then her first match was commentary putting over how much ring rust she had while she sold for Aaliyah. Ooh. And even here, against far more experienced opposition, she just didn't look anywhere near the level that saw her win the Mae Young Classic. Transitions were sloppy and moves were mistimed, and her energy levels just plummeted after that really, really explosive opening. I'm not even going to get into the fact that this was billed as a contest of mutual respect, and then she won it by rolling up her friend off a distraction. And as for Shotzi, it is just a fact. You cannot dispute that every single pro wrestler has a botch in them in every single match. Somewhere, it might be big, might be small, but it's in there for every single one of them because it's so hard to actually do pro wrestling. So the problem for Shotzi seems to be that for her, they almost exclusively occur when she's trying to do something eye-catching. Like she'll fly out of the ring and land on her head, or she'll do something on the apron and not quite rotate all the way over. And in this case, just try to jump on the ropes and fly into the ring and completely stacked it. Now, mercifully, we did have commentary covering for this by saying, it's because she doesn't know where her tank is, so her head is all over the place, which did play quite well, but no, that's not what it was. And it meant that the opening bit, which was supposed to be really energetic, got derailed by that. And then when the energy levels dropped in the second half, it was all just a bit of a total mess for me, this. I am giving this a down, but with the caveat that both these women are just so much better than this match made them look. Like, I know they kept saying they've never actually met anywhere in wrestling before, and I was just sat there like, yeah, you can tell. And at the end of the match, I could just hear the whoops and the cheers of a million boring middle-aged men that were just delighted that a young woman had her tank crushed on television, because they don't like anybody to have any fun if they don't feel like they're included in it. My only wish in the whole world is that the reason they've done this is because they're going to give her an actual tank. And you know what? I know it was a down, and that's kind of confusing, and I don't know if your graphic's going to work, Chris, but in honor of Blondie, we are pouring out a yellow jacket for the tank. Would you look at that? It appears the NXT parking lot is the most dangerous place in all of pro wrestling. Again, who could ever have predicted that violence would occur there? I should get this on a t-shirt. And just quickly before the main event, the Thatcher stuff. Now, I said last time he did this that there was maybe one more version of this going before he has to transition into an actual feud. And if you're just going to beat up on trainees, it's kind of just, yeah, like we get it, we've seen it. He's a bully and he's abusing his position of power and he's a baddie, etc., etc. So I'm very confused because they've simultaneously done exactly what I told them to do and also exactly what I told them not to do, because, well, they've done both. Here he was with a trainee and he beats him up and it was frustrating and he hurt him, and then finally someone came out to stop him to start this feud properly, and it was green. It's green from last week, so still beating up trainees, but now it's a feud with a trainee. I know the guy is good and he probably deserves the spot, but this could be a star-making position for somebody, and am I convinced they're going to put him over Timothy Thatcher? I am not. So, I'm not going to give this an up or a down, because it's just so down the middle. It gets a dup. Alright, finally your main event of the evening, Tomaso Champa versus Velveteen Dream, and this was also a mess. Alright, so help me out here. If Tomaso Ciampa was the face in this match, then why did he immediately target the cast on Velveteen Dream's arm, then continue to work over the injured limb throughout the match? But then again, if he was the heel in this match, then why wasn't he the one going for the steel chair at the end? That doesn't make sense. But if Velveteen Dream was the heel, then why was he constantly presented as being at a physical disadvantage, thus engendering a level of sympathy in his performance? But then again, if Velveteen Dream was a face, then what the hell was he doing on Instagram? Thing is, nothing about this match felt genuine at all. There's not really been any proper build to it. I don't understand why these two want to wrestle each other. Like, the crowd noise was just ramped up to 11 and there was all these chants and whatever, but for tension and for feud and for heat that just didn't actually exist, like, it just baffled me. Like, this would have played out under normal circumstances to, at best, a muted level of appreciation for the work both men were doing, which, don't get me wrong, was good. NXT is full of really good pro wrestlers who, when you put them together, can put on really, really good pro wrestling. And when your roster is this stacked, you are going to have exhibition matches that don't really need to go anywhere or come from anything, but not in your main event. Like, I know people make a big song and dance about narrative and story and wrestling, but like, it does need to be there to some extent, and I just didn't really see what there was meant to be in this one at all. Like, I always use the excuse, oh well, at least the match was good, and at least the match was good, and put it anywhere else on the card, it's probably fine, but this is your main event immediately following Halloween Havoc. Like, you can do a lot better than this, I think. Down. That's me saying so. That's your week's NXT ups and downs. Let us know what you made of it all in the comments below. Of course, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I now live here in the basement of replacement, so please do let me know how I can survive this. Yeah, that's good user-generated content. Let me know how I can survive this in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This has been WhatCulture Wrestling. Get me on Twitter at Adam Clery, and I will see you soon. Real soon. Not that soon. Goodbye.